What is good, Sixer Nation? Welcome on in to another edition of Philly Take with RB Live here in the 2024 off season, as we have a lot coming up. A lot of roster spots to fill, the draft, free agency. We'll keep you up to date with everything going on, because we're going to have a lot of interesting storylines, that's for sure, man. And today we'll get into the free agents that were with the Sixers this year. Who should they keep? Who should they let walk? See you later. We'll talk about it all, man. Welcome on into the show. As always, do me a favor, like the show. If you enjoy the content, hit that little subscribe button and ring that little bell so you don't miss any of the coverage. We'll have you updated all off season. Sixer Nation, how are we feeling, man? Big time games on tonight. Unfortunately, the Sixers are not playing, but we get to sit back and watch and observe and kind of analyze what this team needs going forward. So we'll get into it all, man. But welcome on into the chat. Very, very excited for this show. Something I've been looking very much forward to. And we're going to have a very interactive live stream chat tonight. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you are out there rocking with your boy RB, be sure to get active in the comments section. We're going to go through every single free agent that is on the Sixers right now and talk about whether they should stay or go. Once again, this is Philly Take with RB, presented by BetUS, the #1 sportsbook out there doing it with all your U.S. international odds. Any sport you can think of, most specifically the NBA playoffs right now. So use our BetUS link down in the description and get a 125% deposit match bonus up to $2,500 on your first 3 deposits. We'll talk about some odds later on. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, hit that thumbs up button if you do enjoy the content. Be sure to follow us on all socials and support us in all ways. Shout out to the members, man. J-Ski in the chat, what's up? We got Prince Monito in the building, day one. We got Mr. Dino, what's up? Lexi in the house. How are we feeling, ladies and gentlemen? Are we ready for the chaos that is ready to ensue? And I'm gonna give you my thoughts here today, but I think there's going to be a lot of new faces come next season. So, of course, there will be a lot to talk about. Now, before we get into the free agent stuff, let me go ahead and go over one piece of news. We did make a video about this yesterday, but Kyle Neubeck of PHLY reporting that there's an 80% chance that the 16th overall pick is going to be traded, and that might even be low, he says. We'll see as we get closer to the draft. So, you know, it's a tough thing to maneuver, right? I'm doing a bunch of draft research. I'm watching all these players and these picks. And it's like, well, what happens if they trade the pick? You know, will the Sixers even keep their first round pick? Or are they going to just kick it off and say, well, we'll make a big time trade this summer. We'll get a 3rd star and we'll use our pick in that trade. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'd like to think that they would hopefully have a ready player, you know, have a day one player, whether it's in the draft or whether they trade for somebody. This team needs to be ready to go. There are no excuses come September, October. This team has $60+ million in cap space. They need to get it done now. They need to get it done now. They need to have a ready to win now type of roster. Kenny Smith in the chat. What's up, man? We got Jake up in here talking about Malik Monk and Brandon Ingram. Who else is in here? Elman, what's up? Nathaniel, what's up? John Morant, what's up? Ming says, I think Tobias should be a Sixer for life. Well, we will get into it all. I know we'll have the trolls popping in. But, yeah, man, we have a lot to talk about. We'll continue to do live shows, videos throughout the offseason. We got draft stuff coming up, free agency, and a whole bunch more. All right, man. Why not? Let's get it underway. Let's get it underway. Matter of fact, before we do that, I want to ask a question of the chat. I want to ask a question. How many players out of the Sixers free agents, all right, let me tally them up real quick. 11 free agents pending for the 76ers that were on the team this year. How many do you think are going to be retained? How many free agents do you think are going to be on the Sixers that were on the team last year? Because again, they have to build out a whole roster. It's not easy done, you know? Like some of these guys we can expect to be back because it's not like they're going to go get 12 new players. But I don't think it's going to be all of them, and I don't think it's going to be a lot. They're going to need to bring back some of these guys. So what is our prediction on how many people come back to the 76ers? We got 6 in the chat. I see a couple 4s, 6, another 6, 5 or 6. Ader says, re-sign Oubre, let Toby go. I'm 50-50 on Buddy. Let's see, we got another 4 in the chat, 5, 4 to 5. So people seem to think that 4 to 6 range is probably the bread and butter. So I'll get into my predictions, man. We'll start it off. And the way I want this to work, because again, I want you guys to get interactive in the chat. I want you to be involved. I'm going to put up a player, and I want everybody in the chat to type either stay or go. And we will do that for every single free agent, and I will give you my thoughts as well. So let's go ahead and kick it off, man. Number 1, Kelly Oubre. Kelly Oubre, stay or go. Comment it in the chat. We'll read out some answers each time, and we'll shout some of the best answers out as well. Kenny Smith said 4, Oubre, Hield, Payne, and Melton. Looks like we got a consensus in the chat. Consensus in the chat. Everybody is saying stay. And what does RB say? Kelly Oubre is a stay. There's no doubt about it. I am in agreement with the chat. Kelly Oubre stay, because all season long, this guy proved his worth. He became the number 3 option on the team. He did way more than was expected as a minimum player. He revitalized his career. And, I mean, he essentially fulfilled the role that Tobias Harris was supposed to fill. And when Joel Embiid went down for 2 months, he didn't shy away. He got more ball dominant, maybe the most ball dominant we've seen in his entire career. Became almost a secondary playmaker. And other than the couple bad stretches he had this year after one, his freak accident, and the other one where it looked like he was recovering from the accident, he was a damn good player, man. That's how you get bang for your buck. And when it comes down to Kelly Oubre Jr., this guy is going to get a payday. A lot of people out there in the media world seem to think that the Sixers can retain Oubre on the mid-level for about $8 million per year. I don't know. It seems like he's going to get more than that. But will the Sixers do what it takes to bring him back? I think they need to do whatever it takes. Like I said, he's an offensive threat around Joel Embiid. He can knock down shots. He can take the rock if you need him to in certain stretches. And really what's most important is he's the best perimeter defender on this team. He brings the athleticism. He's a hustle guy. And he can guard multiple positions. And he can guard on the perimeter. That's exactly what this team needs. It's what they have lacked for years. Just seeing a guy like Kelly Oubre this year was so refreshing. And I think you have to bring him back. Matter of fact, people that I know have told me that he wants to be back. The question is, will the Sixers maybe be willing to go a little bit above that $8 million figure to retain him? And I think they should do that. He is ingrained in Philadelphia. His energy, it just radiates every time he plays a game at the Wells Fargo. And he's just a damn good player, man. He's a winner. I love Kelly Oubre, and I hope he is back with the 76ers. So we got 1 in the yes column, 1 in the stay column. Kelly Oubre, we want you back, man. Mike says they better not mess this up. Terrible going through all the years with Nerlens Noel on the bench, telling people we are doing the right thing. Man, it's been brutal. And I'm watching some of these. Well, actually, I've been watching all the playoff games. And it's like, how did the Sixers have so many draft picks that they missed on when you have niche players out there that just do one or two good things to just impact the game? The Sixers don't have those guys. And Kelly Oubre is one of them. For example, I'm watching the Denver Nuggets. Aaron Gordon is just so good at his role. I've said all year, the Sixers need an Aaron Gordon. Or I watch the Knicks and Dante DiVincenzo just hits clutch shot after clutch shot. Or we saw what Josh Hart did. Like, the Sixers need some of those specific niche guys. And Kelly's about the closest thing to one that they have had. So they need to draft better. And again, hopefully, if they keep the pick, they'll end up selecting a guy who's valuable to this team and can fulfill a role that we need. Tyrese says he was our third best player. Chin says, I don't think Kelly's going to get a crazy deal. I mean, it depends what the definition of crazy is. He's not going to get $30 million a year, but I could see some team playing him 12 to 15. I could see that happening. And the Sixers need to step in and say, no, we want him back. He wants to be back in Philadelphia, so they need to give him what he's worth. Jake says, do we forget how bad the Sixers looked before him? We have not had an athletic wing in years. I agree, man. I agree. So there's all the reason in the world to bring Kelly Oubre back. All right, let's move on to the next one. Drum roll, please. I'm interested to see the answers on this one. Number 2 out of the Sixers' 11 free agents, Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris, drop it in the chat, man. Tobias is a good guy, man. He's a good guy. Stay or go. Comment stay or go in the chat. Tobias, look, man, like I said, 5 years. Joel Embiid was 24 years old when they traded for Tobias Harris. 24. Every year of Joel's career, other than his rookie year, he's had either Ben Simmons or Tobias Harris on the roster. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. But as we all know, the time is up, right? The time is up. It's just not going to work here in Philadelphia. So RB, number 2, Tobias Harris, you already know it's a go. He's gone. He's gone quicker than I can say gone. He's probably already packed his bags. He's probably at home in his nice $50 million mansion. Probably pouring up a nice glass of wine, kicking back, watching the playoffs. He's set for life, man. Shout out to Tobias for getting his money. But the Sixers need a guy next to Joel Embiid who does all of the little things that can take pressure off Joel Embiid, that can take pressure off this team, and is not going to go out with 0 points in an elimination game. That was still the saddest performance that I have ever seen. That is the saddest performance I've seen, and it's just frustrating that it even boiled down to that point, that they wanted to keep him past the deadline. But it is certainly time to move on. If there is any way, and I mean this wholeheartedly, that Daryl Morey brings back Tobias Harris, even if it's on like a 1-year minimum off the bench, I really think people in Philadelphia will riot. I think they'll go to the games next year with signs and all types of things to catch the attention of the front office, the ownership. There's just no way you can bring him back. My prediction in free agency, which we will be live for, by the way, we'll do our live free agency show. I think Tobias signs with the Pistons on a deal somewhat of like 3 years, $39 million. I think he's going to sign 3 years, $39 million with the Detroit Pistons. If he gets more than that, I don't know. I don't know what to say. But I think he goes to one of those teams, like a Pistons, a Hornets, and I think he averages 15 to 18 a game. So that's where I'm at with that. $2 super chat from my guy Carlos Rosado. What's up, Carlos? He says, why don't they bring Dwight Howard back on a vet min? You know, we'll talk about the backup center. I think that's a big topic of conversation. Absolutely. My question back to that would be, where is Dwight Howard? Is he still in Taiwan? Is he back in the States? I saw a clip where he said he wanted to play for the Magic again. Dwight Howard needs to figure out what he wants to do. Is he dedicated? I mean, he's out there putting up 50 a game in Taiwan, just having a boatload of fun. Does he even care anymore? But I do think there will be some viable backup center options if the Sixers elect to go get one. Couple that have been here before that I think would be very worthy candidates. So, yeah, I do think that conversation will come up for sure. Tyrese Maxey says Tobias is going to get 3 years, $61 million. That's 20 a year. I don't know, man. If he does, shout out to him and his agent. Shout out to him and his agent. Tobias isn't worth 15 to 20 mil. Jennison says trade Tobias for Cade. Carlos says, I think he did a good job, either him or Drummond. Yeah, I really like Drummond. I think he'll be available probably for a minimum this offseason, so I'm excited, and I would love to have Drummond back as well. So we'll see how that one plays out, man. All right, let's move on to the next. That was a consensus no. You see how I did that? First one, consensus yes, and a second one was a consensus no. Once again, welcome in. We got 200 people in here. Guys, do me a favor. Hit the thumbs up button and support the show. We'll have you covered all off season. I know it's still in that like disappointment phase where it's like, damn, we're not playing, and Sixer fans are probably on vacation, not even thinking about this team. But me, I'm here because I have to make content, and we're here to chop it all up, man. All right, number 3, comment stay or go in the chat, is Kyle Lowry. He'll be 38 years old next season. The Philly native, back with his coach, Nick Nurse. What do we think? Stay or go? Obviously, he didn't have the finish to the year that he liked. I mean, he did have a nice impact on some of these playoff games, but overall, he did kind of break down, and there were some games he was really inefficient. Love his hustle, love his attitude. Definitely like a locker room leader. But how does Kyle Lowry view his future, you know? Does he think he can still play 15 to 20 minutes a night? Or does he think, well, I'm on my last stretch here and I'm willing to say take a haircut and just come back to Philly where I'm comfortable just to be a veteran leader in the locker room and maybe play 5 to 10 minutes? So for me, number 3, Kyle Lowry is a go. Kyle Lowry, in my opinion, is just not worth it unless he takes a minimum contract and is willing to take a back seat and maybe not play that much. When I look at Lowry, do I like his game? Absolutely. If he's like the final guy that the Sixers pick up this offseason, am I going to be mad about it? Absolutely not. Because again, he's comfortable with Nick Nurse. He's comfortable with the 76ers, with Philadelphia, where he's from. But he just, in my opinion, doesn't have that much left. And we saw that in the playoffs. I wish we could have got more. But I would rather go younger. I would rather get a little more juice off the bench, whether that's in the draft or free agency. Maybe pick up a little project that you can work with for the next several years. I think it's time for the youth, man. And I think we've seen that very apparent, you know, with this Sixers team. Tyrese Maxey says stay as a vet min, as a backup. Got some stays. We got some goes. So it looks like we're kind of split on this one. John Gotti says limited role. Carlos says want him to stay, but the youth will replace him. DJ says veteran locker room presence is so underrated. I agree with that, DJ. That's a good point, man. That's an absolutely good point for sure. You do need guys like that. You need winners on your team. But I just don't know if he's worth a roster spot at this point. But again, I'm not going to be mad if he does. I'm not going to be mad if he does. Maybe say depends. It depends. Yeah, I mean, that could be a fair answer too. That could be a fair answer. Ader says we need a starting quality guard alongside Maxey. Lowry is not it. He can come off the bench on a vet min. And I think that just goes to show maybe where we didn't evaluate the roster good enough or view it in the right angle going into the playoffs. Like Kyle Lowry, if you remember, had a really good start to his Sixers tenure. Matter of fact, he was the third leading scorer on the team. He was the third best scorer on the team for a week or two. That just goes to show, man, we need more guys. We need more players, man. It's just not going to work out when you consistently try to run back some of these players that just don't produce, man. So I'm leaning towards the go on Kyle Lowry. I am. Now, the next one is the one that I think is going to create the most controversy, the most conversation, the most disagreement. And I'm really intrigued to hear where Sixer Nation is going to go with this. I'm very intrigued. But before I jump into that, I do have to give a shout out to our great sponsor, and that is BetUS. And I want to know from the chat, actually, who do you think is going to win tonight's game? Game 5, Indiana or New York? Honest opinion. Who do you think's going to win, the Pacers or the Knicks? Because this is a very close series, and it, in my opinion, looks like the Knicks could be cooked. They've been gritty, they've been tough, but they are banged up the wazoo. They have like 7 guys injured. And if the Pacers, who now have momentum, can steal one in the Garden tonight, I think they're going to win the series in Game 6. And is it crazy to think that the Pacers are going to be in the conference finals? I said the Pacers way, way back, if you remember, early this season, but I never thought in my right mind, especially with how Halliburton looked in the second half of the season, that they would be potentially going to the conference finals. And I'll actually tell you why. I'll tell you why it is. It's because of one, Timothy John McConnell. You guys remember TJ McConnell? He has been clamping Jalen Brunson, man. He's been clamping Jalen Brunson. It's crazy, man. TJ McConnell is the X factor in a second round playoff series in 2024. It's unbelievable. But anyway, man, BetUS, the best out there doing it. Number 1 online sportsbook. You guys can get a 125% deposit match bonus up to $2,500 on your first 3 deposits. BetUS has 24/7 service, 24-hour payouts, and some of the best customer service out there in the industry. They got all your odds, U.S. International, doesn't matter. And of course, they have all the specials out for the NBA playoffs. They even have a bet about where Bronny James is going to be drafted. So definitely check out BetUS. And shout out to them for partnering with us all season long. And let's go ahead and make our pick, man. Pacers or Knicks? What do you guys think? I'm going with the Pacers. I'm going with the Pacers. Give me the Pacers money line. I think they take down New York, and they're going to win it in 6. They got the momentum. They got the momentum. Shout out to BetUS, man. Thank you for partnering with the channel. All right, man. Let's go back to the free agent frenzy. And of course, we'll have a lot of time to talk about, upcoming free agents, who the Sixers should get, especially once the playoffs are over and we see where guys are going to go if they decline their options, etc. But I think this one is going to be the biggest level of debate on today's show. And it is no other than Buddy Hield. I guess you could call him the failed experiment for now. Stay or go? Comment it in the chat right now. Buddy Hield only played a handful of games with Joel Embiid, was awful in the playoffs, was unplayable, got benched by Nick Nurse, and then he comes in the final game and absolutely loses his mind, but too little too late, Your 5 threes in the first half still were not enough. And your trade deadline acquisition ended up becoming a big failure for the most part. And Daryl Morey even admitted it in his exit presser. He thought it would be better. The fit would be better. He said, I wish it would have gone better. It almost sounded like he was out the door. So what do we think about Buddy Hield? For me, number 4, Buddy Hield is a go. As crazy as it is, man, I thought when the Sixers picked up Buddy Hield that they would be re-signing him, that they spent assets to get him. I just don't think it's going to happen, and I'll tell you why. Even though the Sixers have his bird rights, he just did not show enough consistency to be a main contributor on this team next season. He showed you who he was in the playoffs. He never was in a playoff series before, I get it. But this is why Indiana, a team that may go to the conference finals, was willing to move on. Because he, simply put, is a streaky shooter. He's not that good of a defender. And he simply disappeared, man. And I do think another team will be willing to bank on his shooting potential and being more consistent. And I do think another team is going to be willing to pay him. The Sixers have his bird rights. They can sign him at a higher price tag than anybody else. But hearing the way Daryl Morey spoke and seeing what I saw, I just don't know if it's worth it, man. I think you can find more bang for your buck. Maybe a guy like Malik Monk, or maybe a guy like Gary Trent Jr. or somebody of that nature who's just going to be more consistent in multiple areas. And I think somebody's going to pay Buddy Hield, man. A lot of people are saying, well, let's bring him back on a 1-year deal. Let's bring him back on this. Ladies and gentlemen, the reason he wanted to be traded by Indiana was because they wouldn't pay him an extension. They were not willing to give him money. And now I don't think the Sixers will give him that money either. He had it right there on a silver platter here in Philadelphia. I like the guy. I think he does do things well. I think him and Embiid can kind of create that JJ Redick, Joel Embiid dribble handoff combo. But man, Buddy was ice cold for almost 2 months. Deshaun says Game 6 showed it can actually work with Buddy Hield. If he doesn't re-sign, we must have conversations about Daryl Morey. I don't know about that. I think the conversation should be, why did we trade this for this guy and make him our prized acquisition in the first place when there were other needs? Sixers spent, 3 second-rounders and other players to get this guy? That's the conversation we should have. Tika says we should do a sign and trade on Buddy Hield. Ader says everybody who leaves us excels in their new roles and new teams. That's true. That is true. That's a trend. That is a trend. Princess, if Buddy is a wash, give me a Kyle Kuzma package. Mo says, let's go out and get Seth Curry again. I think it's a little bit too late on that. I like Seth Curry, but I think it's a little bit too late on that door. I think that one's closed. I think that one's closed. Curtis says, that's why you traded for him. Cavas says, no, think back to the deadline. Bulls would not give up Drummond. Hield and Drummond would have addressed our needs. I agree about Drummond, but here's the thing. There were other players moved at the deadline as well. It wasn't just Andre Drummond. And for instance, and I'm not saying, this was going to turn out to be the best trade ever or whatever, because I don't know if these players would have done well in Philly, but I'm watching the Mavs against the Thunder. 2 players were traded to the Mavs at the deadline. And guess what? They're both out there contributing big time in a playoff series in PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford. Matter of fact, those have become the next 2 guys, essentially, other than Derrick Jones Jr., after Luka and Kyrie. Daryl Morey, when asked about the center position, said that he tried to address it, and I do believe he tried to get Drummond. But he said there were no other centers even traded. That's not true. There were other guys out there, and Andre Drummond could have addressed needs. You know, the Bulls wouldn't move him because the Bulls make absolutely no sense sometimes. But Buddy Hield was their prized possession, and he just did not live up to the hype. So again, I'm going to sit here and say, if Buddy Hield is back with the 76ers, I'm not going to be mad at all. I think there's potential for it to work as a bench option, but you cannot, and I stress, cannot overpay this guy. You cannot overpay Buddy Hield. So we'll see what happens, man. We will see what happens. Appreciate all the engagement in the chat. Charles, what's up? Says, how are we doing on the live show? We're doing good, man. This is for the diehards. We're sitting back, going through every free agent and how we feel about them and if they should stay or go. So appreciate everybody getting active in the chat. Like I said, we got a lot of content to do this off season. We're on 76 likes right now. Can we get it to 100? Smash that thumbs up. We're waiting the games tonight, and we're talking Sixers free agents. Next on the list, Boom Boom Batum. Nico Batum. Should he be back with the Philadelphia 76ers? Stay or go? Stay or go for the 35-year-old Frenchman, Nico Batum. Secret Underdog, what's up, man? He says stay. Prince says stay. Cool Card says stay. We got a lot of stays. A lot of stays. Well, for RB, number 5, Nicolas Batum is a stay. I agree. I agree. I'm right there with you guys. Nicolas Batum, again, not going to have a superior role. Maybe there will be times where he starts based on injuries and stuff like that. But he's just such a very high IQ type of player. Knows how to fulfill his role. He makes up for his lack of athleticism and speed with his IQ. He can rebound a little bit. He can defend multiple positions. And I know he's going to keep slowing down, but man, he just knows how to play around Joel Embiid. He's a nice compliment. He can knock down shots. Had a big-time game against the Heat in the play-in. Obviously kind of dwindled down a bit. But he's a guy I view as a potential bench piece for this team. And yeah, I like Batum. I really do. I did not expect him to be what he was after the James Harden trade. But he ended up being a pleasant surprise. Seems like a really good guy. And, you know, he likes Philadelphia. So I would bring back Nicolas Batum. I would bring him back on a 1-year deal. Don't know if it'll be a minimum. But if you got to pay him a little bit to make him come back, sure, why not? Why not? Ader says stay on a vet minimum. John Gotti says stay on a vet min. Elman says, as far as I know, he is going to retire. Got a couple stays. John Castiglione, what's up, man? He says, I think he retires so we can keep Kyle Lowry for the veteran leadership. I mean, if Batum's going to go, then yeah, sure. I'll bring Lowry back. Why not? Why not? Nicholas says, Mo Bamba staying and trade Embiid. Make the Black Bamba the focus. He will get us a championship. I just don't understand. Like, I know you're trolling and stuff, right? But like, what you know, is that fun? Like, is that fun? I guess so, man. We're here on a middle of May evening, and we got Mo Bamba praisers in the chat. I just don't get it. I don't get it. But hey, if you like it, why not? Why not? All right, let's go to the next one, man. Oops, hold up. I don't want to give you a preview yet. I don't want to give you the preview yet. Reality says, would you like to see Malik Beasley as the 2 next to Maxey? Well, Malik Beasley's definitely on my list of potential free agents. I'm going to come out with a video talking about my top 5 free agent targets once we kind of get a little bit more into the offseason and the draft stuff. But Malik Beasley would be a great piece on this team, for sure. For sure. All right, another interesting one. Number 6, DeAnthony Melton. Stay or go? Sixer Nation. Let us know in the chat, man. Let us know in the chat. Stay or go? Definitely has not lived up to what we thought, especially this past season, and got hurt. When he was on the floor last season, he was pretty good. But, you know, I don't know if he can be the best defender on this team. I don't know if he could be the lockdown that everybody likes and enjoys, because he just can't stay on the floor. I mean, he came back from a back injury, played 1 quarter, and then went out again for another month, and then came back again, and then came back again, and then couldn't even stay on the floor in the playoffs. And when the Sixers traded, keep in mind, they traded a first-round pick. It was late. I think it was, 21 or 22? But they traded a first-rounder to get Melton. The last first-rounder they had. And once again, another example of just not getting the benefit, not getting the bang for your buck. So give me your thoughts, stay or go, for DeAnthony Melton in the chat. For me, number 6, DeAnthony Melton is a go. I don't think it's worth it for what I think he'll get paid to try to match that deal. And it is unfortunate because I did like DeAnthony Melton. He's a guy where if he does return, I'm not going to be mad at all. I think he can have a role in this team, more so as a bench player, because I think a lot of people tried to force him into that number 2 next to Maxey, into that shooting guard role, and I just don't think he's consistent enough. I like him as a complement to the defense, but I don't think he's the lockdown that this team needs, right? Like, they've had lockdown defenders, even though they couldn't shoot their way out of anything, but I just don't think Melton lived up to what we thought. And part of that is injury, to be quite fair. I mean, if he was healthy, I think we're talking about Melton completely different. I think you're looking at him as a piece that could be extended for 2-3 seasons. But, you know, his shot just doesn't seem to be there all the time. He can't do much with it off the dribble. And he just cannot stay on the floor. And I think he's going to go elsewhere. I think Morey always looked at him as a piece that could be expendable. It is frustrating when you think that they used a first-round pick to go get him. They traded for him. But, you know, it is what it is. Sometimes it's how the ball bounces. Let's see what the chat is saying. We got Lego My Ego says, for the right price, he should stay. Anything over, go. Well, what is the right price? What is the right price? John says, I'd like him to stay for cheap, but his back tells me he goes. That's a good way to put it, John. Good way to put it. Ricardo says, stay. Doughboy says, stay. Cava says, go. We have enough injury-prone drama on the team already. Secret says, I'm 50-50. Would like him to stay. Ader Navarro with a $5 super chat. Thank you so much for the support. Ader says, RB, all the scenarios possible, who would you like to see starting alongside Maxey? Do you want a point guard or a shooting guard? That is a good question, man. Ader Navarro bringing the heat. Drop the fires in the chat. You know, I've gone back and forth about this a lot. And I really think it depends on who's available. I know you never want to draft that way. You never want to sign players that way. If the Sixers could somehow find a player, let's just throw a name out like Mike Conley, right? Look at how much structure he brings to the Minnesota Timberwolves. If they could find a veteran like that who could just know how to control the floor, which I thought was going to be Kyle, but unfortunately he's just too old at this point. Or if they could find a point guard with a little more length who could just be another pick and roll facilitator, just be able to run the floor a lot better and have Maxey play as kind of like that sidekick and be able to bring the ball down sometimes and just be a little more relaxed with it, I would be all for it. But unfortunately, I just don't see a player like that. I don't see a player like that. So I think when you look at the free agents available, I think shooting guard is probably what you're going to target most. And I think Maxey's going to just have to learn to develop to be an even better playmaker. I will admit he was fantastic and made a huge jump this year and, not turning the ball over as much. But when things tighten up, when crunch time comes about, Maxey is going to have to get better as a playmaker and a facilitator and run in two-man game with Joel, and they need to go to that more and get him more comfortable. So, I think that's an interesting question, man, and I think it could go either way based on what else the Sixers do. If they were to say go out and get another ball handler like a Mikal Bridges, then you can definitely keep Maxey as your point, because then you could have Maxey, Bridges, maybe they get Jimmy Butler, right? Maxey, Butler. Get another guy that can take pressure off of Tyrese Maxey. That's where I'm at on it. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next. You guys are killing it in the chat. We still don't have 100 likes, though, man. Get us up to 100, man. Drop that thumbs up. This one is going to be interesting as well. Very interested to hear what Sixer Nation has to say. Number 7, campaign. The campaign starts now. By the way, it is awesome that his name is Campaign. Imagine having a first name and a last name that combines for the word campaign. That's awesome. Campaign, stay or go in the chat. Stay or go in the chat for Campaign. I see the comments spiking on this one, man. The chat is passionate. Sixer Nation knows a real one when they see one. Everybody is saying stay. Everybody is saying stay. Number 7, campaign is a stay. I agree. I agree. If you would have told me at the trade deadline that at the end of this season, Campaign would be one of the only players that I'm saying keep on this roster moving forward, I would have said you are absolutely crazy. Campaign, we weren't familiar with your game, my man. It's not even that he's the most athletic or that he's a good defender, because he's not. It's not even that he may not be able to play more than 15 minutes a game. When you see a bucket getter, when you see a freaking winner, man, you know one. Philly knows one. Campaign is made for Philadelphia. I know we've said that about players in prior years, but when this team could not generate a lick of offense, all right, this guy comes out here, he doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who he's matched up against. It doesn't matter who we're playing. He says, give me the freaking rock, Joel. I got you. Every time this dude comes on the floor, he knocks down back-to-back threes. He's a microwave. And he's confident as heck. This guy wants to win, man. I don't know if he can be the backup guard on this team. I hope he can. I don't know if he can be a 15 to 20 minute player per night. Maybe only has to play 10 minutes. I don't know. But Cameron Payne is a pure bucket getter. He is clutch. He's a dog, man. And I would take him back. I don't think he's going to get paid a lot. I think you may even be able to get him on a minimum. People are sleeping on Campaign. The Bucks moved on from him to get Pat Bev. There's going to be stretches where Campaign does not look good as a basketball player. But let me tell you something, man. This guy has the mentality to survive here in Philadelphia. And I hope he is back with the 76ers. Now, do I think he's going to be back? I don't know. They may go younger. They may move on and say, you know what? We're going to go in a different direction. But damn it, I would love to have Campaign back on this team. He's going to be very cheap. Tika says has one of the best clutch ugly shots in the game. Tyrell says I think of Ice Age when I see. Oh man, Tyrell. Jake says campaign's got balls of steel with a deadly jumper. DJ says his weird jumper is wet. It really is, man. It's unbelievable. It is unbelievable, but campaign is a bucket, and I'll take him back, man. I'll take him back. All right, we got 4 more left. Number 8 is no other than Mo Bamba. Number 8, Mo Bamba is a go. I don't even have to ask the chat, do I? I don't have to ask the chat. I don't have to ask the chat on this one. There is absolutely no way that Mo Bamba should be in a Sixers jersey next season. I can't believe they signed him last offseason. I can't believe if you go back to the comments of that video, there are people telling me that Mo Bamba was going to be a stretch 4 next to Joel Embiid. They said this guy was going to be a Nick Nurse player, that he was going to play 3 different positions and be an absolute stud. And the Sixers signed him because he scored 30 points that one game with the Magic in the first half. And other than that, man, what does he do on the floor? You should have got another center at the trade deadline. Bamba has to go. He has to go. So that's where I'm at with Mo Bamba. There's no question. No question. Number 10. I'm sorry, number 9. Number 9. We got 3 more. Number 9. Rocco, the 2-time Sixer. Definitely a very intriguing career with what he has been able to do, what he has not been able to do, with the teams that he's been on, with what he's been traded for. I've never heard a coach say what Nick Nurse said about Robert Covington this season. Literally, Covington went down with an injury, and out of nowhere, he was injured out. We said, okay, when's Rocco coming back? Nick Nurse sat up at that podium, looked straight in the camera, and said, there is no light at the end of the tunnel for Robert Covington. I've never heard a coach say that about a player. They said he might come back in the playoffs, never saw the floor. I still don't know what the injury was. I still don't know what happened to Robert Covington. But number 9, Robert Covington, that is a go. Rocco is as good as gone. And it is sad because when he came over to Philadelphia, I was very down. I said, man, I didn't like this guy the first time he was here. Very inefficient. Never learned how to put the ball on the floor as a 3. But you know what, man? I'll give credit to Robert Covington where it's due. Robert Covington showed up on the defensive side. I actually thought he was playing stellar defense until the injury. I don't think I've ever seen a team have this many injuries and sicknesses and bugs in the locker room in a season. Robert Covington injured and never came back. So he has to go. There is no role for him back on this team because he's just not, dependable. Let's see what the chat says. Go. Old and cannot stay healthy. Goodbye. Stays on a minimum. What do I think about OG? I don't think he's going to be available, but if so, yeah, go after him. Kenny says go, but would be okay if he stayed on a 1-year deal. He never got a fair chance. What do you mean he never got a fair chance? He's been on this team twice. He's been on this team twice. Steven says it's a toss-up. Gene says high, far, and it's gone. Second best process Sixer after TJ, says Tyrell. Gave him a red X. Yeah, he's a gone. He's a goner. So Robert Covington, in my opinion, is out of here. Two more. Shout out to everybody in the chat, man. Shout out to the chat. Number 10, stay or go, KJ Martin. KJ Martin. What do we think about KJ Martin? Didn't get to play in the playoffs. I'm still confused on why certain players did not get any run in the playoffs, especially when you had to match the physicality of the New York Knicks, and he just did not do anything to try to do that. But I will be honest, man, KJ Martin coming over in that James Harden trade, I didn't think much of him. I thought he played pretty well down the end of the season. At least on the defensive side, he was a switchable defender, nice cutter. Got better as the season went on. Didn't get a lot of minutes, but he looked decent. In my opinion, I don't think he's going to be back. But KJ Martin, number 10. What do we think? Stay or go? I see it looks like it's split in the chat. Number 10, KJ Martin, is a go. But I'm going to add on to this one too. I don't care. I don't care if he stays or goes. If he's a body at the end of the roster, sure. But if you fill up the roster and KJ Martin doesn't have room left, then I just don't care. You know, he doesn't do enough for me. When the Sixers traded for him, a lot of people said, you know, he was a great slasher and he was an acrobatic finisher and he could throw down posters. And I was expecting more at the beginning, but then we didn't really see him a lot. I do agree that you need youth athleticism on this team, and he can check some of those boxes, but I don't see him being a formidable role player that's going to get consistent minutes. It's just where he's at. He's very young. I think he's, 24, 25, if I had to guess. Don't know that off the top of my head. But he did show some promise at the end of the season. So if he is back, cool. But if not, you know, I'm not going to sweat it. And last but not least, number 11, DJ Wilson. Stay or go? DJ Wilson, I don't even know if he's still on the roster at the end of the season. I think he played for 2 minutes. Actually, no, I remember that one game he came in and hit 2 threes. We were going crazy on the live stream. I'm like, DJ Wilson is the next backup big on this team. Start him. I thought he was going to get more minutes. But again, another one that just gets thrown into the trash basket and is just doesn't get an opportunity. So, number 11, DJ Wilson, is a go. That one's pretty automatic. DJ Wilson didn't play in the NBA for like 2 years because he was just going crazy in the G League. And Sixers gave him an opportunity, just like they have with a lot of backup bigs. And I was actually thinking about this the other day. Like, you can't even write it up to be this funny about the backup bigs that the 76ers have had. You ever think about that? Think about the last 3 years, the backup centers that this team has had. DJ Wilson, Dwayne Dedmon, DeAndre Jordan. Like, what is this team doing? I will never forget the Sixers going into last season with an open roster spot, cutting Isaiah Joe, which, again, it hurts me to see him every time he hits a damn three in the playoffs with OKC. They went into the season with an open roster spot and said they were going to use it for a big-time player at the trade deadline or the buyout market, and they ended up signing Dwayne Dedmon. I will never forget that. Never. So DJ Wilson, good luck in the G League, but I don't think you will survive here. I don't think they view you as any type of player that can be a part of this team's future with how things are trending. So DJ Wilson is gone. I see somebody in the chat saying Terquavion Smith. The reason that I didn't say anything about Terquavion is because I think he's going to be a G League player. And I really like Turk. I like his game. Obviously, his counterpart in Ricky Council has made a name for himself, got a contract extension. But Terquavion, I don't really see much of a future for, just because his frame is just not enough. He's too little. He's undersized. Good shooter. I like his game. He got a few opportunities, but nothing crazy. And I just think he's a little bit too small for the NBA, unfortunately. So the 76ers, I mean, they're going to have a lot of roster spots to fill. They're going to have a lot of cap space. They do. They're going to have a 16th overall pick that they'll either trade away in a bigger player trade or, you know, maybe try to get a good role player for once. And they're going to have all the flexibility in the world. I put it out on Twitter, man. The Sixers have no excuse to not come back in October with a championship-ready roster. You have every avenue to go down this summer. Sure, maybe the free agent class is not that good. Maybe the draft class is not that good. But you can make trades. We're going to see a lot of teams moving on from players. There's going to be a lot of rumors because teams don't want to hit that second apron in the CBA. We might see some superstars on the move, and I have a gut feeling that Daryl Morey is going to be involved in every single one of them. So from a content storyline perspective, we are going to have a lot to talk about. But I've already started to put out some hints on Twitter, which is why you should definitely follow me over there at RB Philly Take. I've started to put out names of free agents, draft prospects. I got a couple guys I really like in the draft already, but I'm not going to talk about it yet. Free agents, I think there's guys that could definitely plug into this team, but you don't want to overpay a guy. And at the same time, how much flexibility are you going to have if Daryl Morey goes out and trades for Jimmy Butler or signs Paul George? I have a feeling that they're going to get Paul George, and to be honest, I'm not too thrilled about it. Not that I don't like Paul George, but a 4-year max for Paul George would be a mistake. You're making a mistake if you go out and sign PG to a 4-year max. Let's not give a 35-year-old a 4-year contract. Can we not do that for once? Can we just get some dogs on this team? Please. The number one need on this team is a big man next to Joel Embiid that can rebound, that can hound the opposition, that can defend multiple positions, and maybe take a little burden off offensively. That's what they need, man, next to Joel. I don't know if there's a guy out there in the free agent class that can do it. They may have to make a trade, but they need a guy to take some pressure off, man. Tyrese Maxey says, we have a 90% chance of trading the 16th pick, but who do you think we draft? Oh, but do you think we draft at number 41? I do. I do think the Sixers will draft at number 41. I wouldn't be mad if they draft at number 16, but there are some quality guys that you can get in the second round. They've gotten some decent second round players before. A lot of them aren't on the team anymore, which is unfortunate. But I do think that there will be players there that can be chosen. Kevin says, I'm guessing Payne ain't small to be playing lights out for the small players. I mean, I like Payne, his heart, man. Bucket getter. Fearless. Comes in the game, impacts it immediately. Love his game. Love his game. Who do you like in the draft, RB? I like Zach Edey. Like I said, I'm going to make a video talking about my top 5 draft targets, but I do want to wait a little bit to see if the Sixers trade the pick. I would hope that they draft somebody. I don't want to do a ton of draft research, and then they trade the pick, and it's like, okay, we're sitting here on draft night, and they don't have a draft pick. They didn't have one last year. The year before, they traded it for DeAnthony Melton. But the Sixers haven't had a pick this high in a long time. And I made a video yesterday talking about the 16th overall pick for the Sixers. They've had it twice. They drafted Maurice Spates and they drafted Nikolai Vucevic and traded him. So last year, Keontae George got picked at 16. The year before, Alperen Sengun. So look, man, there are some guys. There are some guys you can get at number 16. But in summation, here's my list for the 2024 free agents. Kelly Oubre, Nico Batum, Payne are my stays, and my goes are the rest. Do you think LeBron and the Sixers would be good, RB? No, I don't think that's a good idea, which I talked about in the video yesterday. I don't think that's feasible, given that LeBron's 40 years old. I think it would take a lot to make it happen. You'd have to probably draft Bronny. A lot of risk that goes into that. Tyree says draft is on June 27th. We might get a draft night trade. So now they have the draft on 2 different nights, which I don't know why they did that. They split it up, draft night 1 and 2. Draft night number 1 is on June 26th. The reason I know that is because draft day number 2, June 27th, is actually my birthday. So I will not be streaming on that day because I have a feeling the Sixers are going to trade their picks. They might draft number 41, but I'll be enjoying that night, man. But draft day number 1, the 26th, will be here, man. We'll be here live streaming the draft, talking about all of it, and a whole bunch more. But anyway, man, I do appreciate everybody for being in the chat tonight. Once again, guys, use our BetUS link. Get a 125% deposit match bonus up to $2,500 on your first 3 deposits using BetUS. Like I said earlier, I'm picking the Pacers to win tonight, so that's who I'm putting my BetUS bonus on. But you guys can do the same. And once again, check out our BetUS link. RB will be lit on draft day 2. That's a fact. I'll be lit. And who knows? Maybe I'll do a little reaction. Who knows? We'll see. But a lot to happen in between now and then. A lot will happen. We'll have a lot of shows. I'm going to start live streaming at least once or twice per week for the off season. And we'll have daily videos. Guys, also be sure to follow us on Instagram at Philly Take with RB. Follow me on Twitter at RB Philly Take. We're pumping out the content everywhere. And join the Discord server as well. Other than that, man, appreciate everybody tapping in. Sixers 2024 free agent edition, stay or go. Appreciate everybody getting active in the chat tonight. It was good to chat it up with you guys. Playoff games are coming on, man. Time to go watch. Lego says you're global, by the way. I was on MFL yesterday and someone was listening to one of your vids on the train. Let's go, man. Let's go, man. Lego, thank you so much, man. Appreciate that insight. Shout out to the members. Catch you guys on the next one. Have a great rest of your night. Peace.